Hey everybody, thanks for stopping by and getting an update on Hurricane Sally. It is about 11:35 Eastern Central Time. My name is Leslie Hudson. I'm the Chief Meteorologist for my radar. Apologize there, my earpiece fell out right when we were coming up. And wanted, of course, to continue our coverage on Sally, which is expected to make landfall sometime late tomorrow, maybe early Wednesday. Kind of depends. It's slowed way down today. A couple of key features that you may or may not know about. So one, it rapidly intensified from a tropical storm up to a Category 2 hurricane this morning. And then it kind of leveled off this afternoon and tonight, and it's kind of plateaued. So we're going to show you why that is, but I still think there might be a little small window here for it to try and either get just a little bit stronger than what it is before landfall, or it'll kind of remain as it is, as a very strong Category 2. But a couple things tonight I'm looking at that are showing me some indications that it might be trying to get a little stronger. So let's start with the My Radar app, and I've got the wind layers toggled on and the high definition radar. And the big thing that sticks out to me here is when we look at this, see how the reds are on the northeast side of the quadrant? That's always where we will find the highest winds. So you see those reds there, but then notice you see them on the south side, and they're kind of trying to line up together and form a semicircle, at least half of a donut, of what would be some really powerful winds on the south side and on the southeast side. Now, the west side has not seen that type of red burst of convection. See how it's kind of flat there and it doesn't even make a full circle? So we're not seeing a completely well-organized, mature cyclone, but we are seeing some indications with those bursts of reds of a system that is definitely trying to get some convection going here and might try and wrap around through tonight. And that would, as a common scenario, actually, synoptically, for these systems to get a little stronger through the overnight hours. Now, let me toggle on the photo layers real quick, because I wanted to show you this too, because we're getting a ton of photos from our users, and you can track the system really nicely here in the photo layer. So I'm just going to kind of scoot along here. There's one from Lake Pontchartrain. Of course, they're not directly in the gun here, but we'll take a look at this photo, real pretty here from Eden Isle, Louisiana. But some of these other ones that are closer to the center, of course, is where we're talking about some really, really rough conditions. So this particular photo from earlier in the day today is from Baldwin County, and you can see that there is some really rough surf right there, and that's of course only going to get worse as we head into tonight as Sally gets closer. Here's another vantage point. Let's see where this one is from. This one is from West Pensacola. You can see, of course, the wet pavement there. They've been dealing with showers off and on today. And then, let's take a look at Mobile. Let's see what they're doing, because they got a lot of rain earlier today. Oh, that's a pretty picture. They actually had some sunshine today from Mobile, Alabama, but that will not be the picture in the Bay tomorrow. Boy, it's going to be a different, quite a startling contrast for those folks. Okay, so let's go and take a look at, let's see. Let's take a look at the live WSI radar, Matt, and we'll take a look at the center of the storm. And I'm going to do our little measuring tool here. It's about 100 miles from the mouth of the Mississippi. We'll take a look at here Mobile Bay. So it's coming up right at 100 miles just due south rather of Mobile. So again, the movement's really slow at about 5 miles an hour. So it's going to take a while to get up into this region of the country. And of course, a lot of questions are remaining. Where is it going to make landfall? Just how far to the north and to the east will it head? There has been another shift in the track from the Hurricane Center as of the 11 p.m. update. And as you look at the radar imagery in this loop, you can see a elongated presentation there, what looks like a comma shape. So not a classically well-organized hurricane. This is not the scenario that we saw with Laura, which of course was a strong Category 4, right, knocking on the door of a Cat 5. But I do see, as I mentioned, some attempts from Sally to kind of rally back together tonight and maybe potentially try and organize. But take a look at this last loop. I'm going to stop it here when it gets to the last frame, because I want you to see something. Let me get it to the end. And then take a look here on the southwest side of the cyclone. See how the center of circulation is exposed right here? So again, another indication that there's some wind shear coming in, and there's some entrainment or dry air that's punching through that south core. But we do have some really high winds and rain right there on that northern and northeastern eye wall that are packing those winds near 100 miles an hour. But seeing this raggedness here shows and tells me that as much as Sally is trying to rally tonight, it may be counterintuitive because it may just not be able to get its act together. We'll see. But I definitely think there has been some bursts of energy in these last hours or so. The recon aircraft, by the way, is kind of showing that too. I was looking at their data just before we came up, and they were showing some intensity on the north side, on the west side, and on the east side. So we're not getting that full north, south, east, west organization on all quadrants of the hurricane, but it looks like it's trying to make an attempt to try and get better organized, as I mentioned before it comes in. So here's a look at the velocity mode, and I'm not anticipating to see too much on here right now. As I scan across there, I've got 5 live radars. So this is New Orleans, and then I've got Mobile over here. What we would be looking for, and what we're going to be looking for tomorrow when we're doing these live updates, are what are called couplets, and that's where we see the rotation within the actual velocity mode. So the green is towards the radar, the red is away from the radar, and we see the green inside the red. That indicates that there's rotation. So switching back over as we head back towards Tallahassee again. I'm just doing a quick little look see and see if there's anything interesting. But really, it's going to be more like tomorrow before we start to see that potential for some of these short-lived tornadoes to pop up. So here's a look at the infrared, and another interesting thing about this is, so when we did our update, I think we went live around 6 o'clock tonight, 6:30 or 7. I noticed that in the early evening hours, Sally kind of was at that plateau stage. The convection wasn't that deep, looking ragged, but over these last couple hours, from say 7 p.m. to 11 p.m., I noticed another burst of convection. So you can see that in that last frame. See how that we're starting to see those blacks and reds kind of form that donut. That donut is again indicating a cyclone that's trying to get better organized and showing maturing. So I still think there's a small window here for it to try and get a little stronger. Now, the last recon update that I saw, the pressure with the flight level was around 988. The official reading from the Hurricane Center is around 966. So usually when you get a drop in pressure, you're getting a strengthening system. So, I want folks as they head to bed tonight to realize there certainly is that possibility of dealing with some of these potential increase in upticks in the winds. Now, these are actually live current wind gusts across the Gulf Coast, and I've got an oil rig on here. You'll notice it's south and due east of New Orleans, and look at that. It's called Main Pass, and I think it's called 289C, and it's got a wind of 71 miles an hour. So that's right on the cusp of a hurricane Cat 1 winds. And then all along the New Orleans area, and again, we've got another rig that's got an oil rig that's got a wind of 33 mile an hour in a gust. New Orleans gusting to 23. We've got 32 in Mobile. Gulf Shores just about 30 miles an hour, and back towards the east with Panama City reporting 26.5 mile per hour gusts this last hour, and Apalachicola about 28. So again, we're going to see those only go up as we head through tonight. And then in that small core wind field that we were looking at, that's where we're going to see those winds around 100 miles an hour. So look at the moving towards wait, let me back that up because that actually stopped where I didn't want it to. Let me scoot this back. So moving towards the northwest at about 3 miles an hour. So moving really, really slow. So when you do the math there, that's about 30 hours, 31, 32 hours, 33 hours actually, before we're going to be talking about a landfall. And it's about 90 miles, or about 30 hours, I take that back, about 90 miles east of the mouth of the Mississippi River. So it's slowed down even more since the 5 p.m. and the 8 p.m. update. And of course, that's not good for multiple reasons, including that it's got more time to potentially get stronger, and it's going to be battering the coast of Florida, battering parts of southern Alabama and southern Mississippi for a longer period of time. In fact, this area of the country is expected to deal with hurricane force conditions for about 12 to 24 hours. So again, that core wind field that if it comes in as a strong Cat 2 with winds of 110, it's going to be isolated to that, of course, that eye wall. But remember, the hurricane force winds extend out from the center about 60 miles or so on either side. So there's going to be a pretty decent chunk of geography that's going to be dealing with hurricane force winds for quite a bit of time. And even though buildings in this area of the country should easily be able to withstand a Category 1 or a Category 2, power lines do not do well in long sustained weather events, wind events. And of course, the storm surge is also a big concern that I have as well. So we'll start to see that forward momentum and the increase in the speed start to pick up on Thursday and Friday. And I can see I've got my maps out of order here. Let me fix that. When we were, Matt and I, by the way, Matt's back in the back if Sandy's watching and she wants to know. Actually won't let me edit it. So I apologize. That Friday is out of place. That should be up towards the latter graphic there that says Thursday at 8 p.m. So those are out of order. But you get the gist that it's moving towards the northeast as we head into the next couple of days. But in terms of the storm surge, here's where we expect those to be the biggest concern in the mouth of the Mississippi, 7 to 11 feet. And then it goes down, on either side of that. I've got a graphic here that I'm going to show you what you can expect if you live in that area of the country. So we'll get to that one in just a second. Here's a look at the current warnings. And as of 11 p.m., the National Hurricane Center dropped the hurricane warning that was over Grand Isle. That's now a tropical storm warning. And then pretty much the hurricane warnings remained unchanged in the areas in red. And we still have a tropical storm warning for the Panhandle of Florida. So as we get closer in time, the Hurricane Center is going to really fine-tune those warnings and give people a really clear snapshot of where we're expecting those hurricane force winds. Here's the potential inundation, which is the flooding risk. So the areas in blue can expect easily above a foot of water to come in with Sally. The areas in yellow and orange are going to be 3 to 6 feet. And notice that's on the south side of Lake Pontchartrain and over into the boot of Louisiana as well. We're talking about that 3 to 6 foot surge. And again, the mouth of the Mississippi is the current thinking of where the landfall will be. And that's where the greatest risk for that storm surge of 7 to 11 feet will be occurring. And it will start tomorrow. Remember, storm surge occurs ahead of landfall. So the surge will start to increase as we head through the day through the day tomorrow, and then it's going to get worse once Sally makes its final approach into the northern Gulf of Mexico. So here's a look at those storm surges. You can follow along and pretty much from Louisiana over to the Big Bend of Florida. We're expecting that the surge, as you get away from the center, obviously the surge decreases. So Lake Pontchartrain expecting about 3 to 5 foot storm surge. We're expecting Biloxi in the neighborhood of 4 to 7. Remember, this is on the current path. Storm surge from the Alabama Florida border back through the back through the Florida Panhandle, 2 to 4 feet, and about 1 to 3 in the Big Bend area down to Crystal River. And then back over on the west side towards central Louisiana, 1 to 2 feet near Morgan City, and Galliano about 2 to 4 feet. So those certainly will not be life-threatening, but the 7 to 11 foot surge is a life-threatening, very dangerous surge. And even 3 to 5 feet in Lake Pontchartrain, or at least in that area, is also going to be causing some big-time major problems for those areas along New Orleans and along the lake. The levees there, of course, can handle that kind of surge. But, the low-lying areas are going to have some problems for sure if this path holds currently from the National Hurricane Center. Besides the surge, look at all the wet rain we're going to get from this. There is going to be a ton of water that comes with Sally. And because Sally is moving so slowly, that's another big concern. A lot of people, I talked about this earlier tonight, so many people are focused on the strength of the hurricane and the winds because that's where all of the dramatic video comes in that people are so hooked into watching. But really, the number one killer of a landfalling cyclone is the storm surge and the freshwater flooding. So when you're talking about up to a foot of rain and you're in an area that floods easily and you don't evacuate, you can easily get caught in a life-threatening situation. And so if your local officials have told you to evacuate, you really do need to get out because we're talking a big rain event, flooding event with Sally. This is going to move very slowly through tonight and tomorrow. You'll wake up tomorrow morning and there's not going to be a big shift. It's probably going to only be maybe 15 miles or 20 miles closer than it was when you went to bed, depending on how long you sleep. But on average, we're still going to be talking about late landfall tomorrow and maybe even early Wednesday morning. It just depends if it slows down more because, again, the weak steering currents collapsing, causing a big problem for this area of the country. 5 to 7 inches of rain possible for central Alabama, and then up into Georgia, also the same thing, northern Georgia, 5 to 7, and then we got 3 to 5 inches of rain in those surrounding areas. So you can see the big swath. I do think that's very reasonable because of the slow movement of Sally, much different than Laura, which picked up speed once it moved inland. And eventually we do think Sally's going to pick up forward speed, but it won't be until days 3, 4, and 5 after landfall. So there's going to be several days of heavy rain. And look at the computer models. They've had a really difficult time trying to forecast Sally's path because it recentered today. And the hurricane models are notorious for having a hard time trying to pick up on guidance on where these cyclones head when there's a restructuring of the cyclone itself. Category 2 winds, here's what you can expect. The winds anywhere from 96 to 110, likely to produce extensive damage. Power outages lasting more than a week is certainly not outside the realm. We saw that with Laura, even though Laura was a strong Cat 5. I do obviously expect to see some power outages here as we deal with Sally. Okay, so where is our cold front? So a couple arrows I'm going to draw. The actual frontal boundary, well, there's a trough of low pressure that kind of follows this presentation. And then we have a ridge of high pressure, a weak one that's over in this area. And that's kind of the mechanisms that's steering Sally towards the west-northwest, the ridge. But as Sally gets a little further away from that ridge, it's already not getting much interaction with that ridge right now. Once it gets just a little bit further, then we're going to start to see this trough come into play and start to pull Sally northward. But the question is, when does that turn happen? When does Sally pull north and then eventually towards the northeast? Because that's going to be the big component here and what dictates who gets the worst of the winds, the biggest surge, and then who's going to get all of the rain. So the official path, as you saw, has been nudged a little bit to the east because again, Sally has slowed down, has not responded as originally forecast. It's been a really difficult cyclone, tropical hurricane to forecast because the steering currents are weak. The system is already interacting with land, and it's really difficult to try and determine how far to the east it's going to head before it starts to get picked up by that cold front. But as you look at it over the last 48 hours, you can see it moving towards the west-northwest, and then it just slows down today to that snail's pace. And again, hopefully it's going to pick up some of that momentum to get it out of the southeast quicker than later, because I'm really concerned about the potential for these intense flash flooding events that happen with these slow-moving tropical cyclones. All right, so here's a product. This is the HRR, the HRR model. It's a high-resolution model, and I've got toggled onto that. That blue cone is obviously the official cone from the National Hurricane Center, and notice how the HRR was earlier today, if you're watching, it was showing to the east, but now it's stacked up pretty much right along with the National Hurricane Center. It's a little to the east as well in this particular run, but it's starting to get a little closer lined up with the official path from the National Hurricane Center. So if this would hold, again, the largest concern would be in that northeast side. So Panama City back towards Mobile Bay, back towards the parts of Alabama and into the Alabama into the Alabama Mississippi border, we could really be talking about some really potentially very dangerous weather. And there still could be some nuances in this forecast. You got to remember that there still could be another jog to the east, or we could even see a jog towards the west. The Hurricane Center says that very clearly in their discussions, that they're not really sure how this is going to play out between now and tomorrow night because, again, lack of strong steering currents makes it very difficult to track a landfalling hurricane. What we do know is there is a risk for tornadoes, about 1 million people at a slight risk and about 1 million people as well at a marginal risk. That is almost always the case when we have a landfalling tropical storm or a landfalling hurricane. The friction with the land interacting with those rotating thunderstorms as they come onshore. We will likely see tornado watches issued tomorrow that will last most of the day. I think actually it's going to be later in the day tomorrow, and then through the overnight tomorrow night, because this is slowed down so much. We could be talking about a very early landfall Wednesday morning. Still too early to say, maybe 1, 2 in the morning, or it could be later if it even slows down even more. So we're going to fine tune that forecast for you tomorrow once it gets a little bit closer, but it's expected to move pretty slowly. All right, here's a look at the computer modeling with the rain. So in that swath there, 8 to 9 inches possible. I certainly think that's reasonable. And even we're talking 4 to 5 inches in surrounding areas. Dothan, Alabama, 5 inches. Atlanta, about 4 inches on the current path. 3 inches in the Carolinas, another 1 to 2 inches in the state of Florida, and then back towards Texas. That rain is actually not associated with Sally, but a couple of inches, of course, expected through parts of New Orleans. It's not showing there on that graphic, but I certainly think there's going to be several inches of rain for New Orleans and Metairie and surrounding cities there. All right, here's a look at the Atlantic Basin, and if you didn't know, we were tracking 5 named storms earlier today. Renee has officially dissipated, so it's no longer really something we're officially monitoring. But earlier today, we tied the record back in 1971 for having the most named storms in the Atlantic Basin simultaneously together, and you can see them there. Again, Renee has since dissipated, but earlier today it was still a depression, and it just indicates how crazy this year has been, you guys. We're expecting it to be a record year. It could wind up being much like 2005. I do think we're going to get to the Greek alphabet. We've only got 1 letter left before we go to the Greek alphabet, and I think that's certainly possible since we've got about 70 days or so left in the 2020 hurricane season. All right, let me take a look. I'm going to look behind me here and see if we have any questions that we can take a look at. I am on Facebook. Okay. Someone's asking, where is it? Steve is asking, he's in Mobile. So we've definitely talked about the weather that's going to be moving in Mobile. And then I'm really concerned for Mobile, by the way. I think there's going to be a possibility for a decent surge for you guys. And then Covington County, Alabama is another one. Let's see. Let me take a look at YouTube real quick. See if I couldn't get that to pop up, Matt. I don't know if we are having problems with YouTube or oh, there it is. Let me just take a look and see if there's any questions here. Let's see. Southwest Georgia. Yeah, I think you guys are going to get a fair amount of rain for sure. Baldwin County, Alabama. I showed that photo from the My Radar app earlier. Someone says, let's see. Vargo says this storm is moving almost as slow as a turtle. You got that right. It is definitely moving slow. And then Huntsville, Alabama, in the house tonight on YouTube. So Huntsville, you're probably going to get, on the current path, I would think fair game is a couple inches of rain, maybe 3 to 5. You're certainly going to get some wind on this current path, but it's going to be moving quicker once it gets up into northern Alabama than it currently is, which is moving super slowly right now. So I think that's going to do it for right now, you guys. Just a couple of housekeeping notes so you know. The fast forecast will be updated, and you can catch that in the app starting around 4 in the morning. We put that in the app really early, so people that are early risers can get the latest info and get all the details on it from the National Hurricane Center. We'll have the videos. Plus, we'll be doing live streams all day tomorrow. So if there's not a meteorologist here, which will more than likely be me, but if it's not me, we will have, we'll be streaming the live graphics of the path, of the latest coordinates, the latest wind speeds, the latest rain projections. We'll have all of that in a live stream throughout the day, 11 a.m., And then I'll be back, and then we'll do one at 2 p.m. and then I'll be back at 5 p.m. and we'll do some evening updates tomorrow up until landfall tomorrow night, or whenever Sally decides to make landfall. So again, it is just before midnight on Monday. I want to thank you guys again for stopping in, keeping us me and Matt company tonight as we try and keep you guys updated on the very latest on what Sally is doing. Looks like it's going to be a landfall late tomorrow, perhaps early Wednesday. We will be here for sure for you throughout the duration to help guide you through the storm. And if you, again, have any questions you want to have answered, please leave them in the comments, and I'll go back and answer them here shortly. All right, you guys, that'll do it for now. Hope you have a fantastic night tonight. Stay safe.